Major moves this week in the state's effort to advance the Trump administration's mass deportation plan. And Florida's point man on it all is here to address the questions and the controversies. The detention center in the Everglades is back up and running. That plan in place Thursday when an 11th District Court of Appeals panel blocked a Miami federal judge's order to wind it down and dismantle the facility. And the appeal of the original environmental lawsuit continues.
We said we would fight that. We said the mission would continue. And I'm pleased to say that the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals has just stayed that ruling and stayed the case. So Alligator Alcatraz is, in fact, like we've always said, open for business.
This week, the state's second migrant detention center opened at the former Baker Correctional Institution. The first detainees were brought there this week. The state named this one Deportation Depot, capacity 1,500 people. The governor said a third migrant detention center is in the works in Northwest Florida. The state's entire migrant detention plan is built and operated under the Florida Division of Emergency Management, and the man leading it all is its director, Kevin Guthrie, right here with us now. So good to have you, Director. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Glenn. It's always good to be with you.
And may I just say, also at the height of storm season, which is also your division's purview, so team no sleep, I guess. So really grateful for your time. So I want to start out with, I just want to frame this conversation. This is not about the politics of mass detention at all. It is about the operation and what Florida is doing under your purview. And a lot of people have a lot of questions that we're hoping to clear up today. So I just want to start with who is in charge at not only the center in the Everglades, but the others that Florida is opening up? Is it the state? Is it the feds, Department of Homeland Security? Who's in charge there?
Yeah, I think the best way to answer that question is, and we do this all the time, if you're a CEO of a company, COO of a company, you can delegate your authority, but you cannot delegate your responsibility. And I think that's very, very important for people to understand. We have been given 287G authority to act on behalf and assist the federal government. Ultimately, as you've heard the governor say time and time again, the federal government has a responsibility for immigration. They have delegated authority to officers and agencies through this 287G authority, so they have delegated that authority. We are running under our authority these locations around the state of Florida, both Alligator Alcatraz and the Deportation Depot, as the governor calls it, up in Baker County. So we are running those. Those are reimbursed through federal grant programs. So that is how that is being done. Again, the responsibility for immigration clearly, statutorily rests with the federal government. They have delegated authority to the state of Florida to do certain things for them. In this case, one of those certain things is the actual detention of individuals. That is now ran by the state. I hope that clarifies it, but that's a really great question, Glenna.
Okay, so let's take that a little further, because under the 287G agreements, for instance, like somewhere in Florida, a Florida Sheriff's Department will make an arrest, will make a detention, will bring the detainee to one of these facilities. Inside the facility, there are contractors. So these, you tell us, who inside actually has the one-on-one contact with detainees? It is a sheriff, a law enforcement operations person? Is it a ICE agent, or is it a contractor who may not necessarily have that sort of training? What happens there?
So the answer is yes, all the above. So, and again, it's more complicated and complex than just what your viewers or any viewer may try to understand. So when an individual, we'll say Florida Highway Patrol, we'll try to keep this all in very, very relevant terms. Florida Highway Patrol makes a stop out on the street, or a sheriff's deputy or a police officer makes a stop on the street. They are going to take that individual into custody. They are going to take them to a local facility. Typically, that they have about 48 to 72 hours to get them in front of an ICE facility. That ICE facility is the one that processes them. Once the ICE facility processes them within that up to 72-hour period, we call them a 72-hour hold, then ICE will determine, what are they eligible for? Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? Do they need to go to first appearance? Or is this somebody that is on a final removal order that has not done a check-in as they're required to do by federal law? Depending on those circumstances, then they will be taken to a facility. They may go to Chrome, which is a purely federal facility in South Florida. They may be sent to Alligator Alcatraz by ICE enforcement removal operations, or they may go to the deportation depot. Where those detainees are going is an ICE decision. They make the decision on where they are going to go. The state, local is not making that determination. ICE may decide to send them to Louisiana or send them to El Paso. Again, those are not our decisions. We get basically a list, if you will. We'll get a phone call. There's a list of people coming to you tonight at 1 a.m. in the morning.
So you
Then
facilitate.
we'll put those in. So we facilitate that. We coordinate it. Again, if you go back to our normal role that everybody's familiar with, Glenna, it is coordination, collaboration, communication. We are that agency. We are coordinating with our federal partners based on their movements and taking those people into the facilities that we are running.
So does the state have any jurisdiction or is the state empowered to let people know who's there? One of the lawsuits right now from attorneys who are saying they had not been able to see the detainees. Families don't know where their loved ones may have been taken. Does the state have any power to release that census, release where people are, just for informational sake?
So as you mentioned, there is a pending legal lawsuit. So I'm going to stay away from that particular answering the question. But at a high level, yes, people can go to the federal websites. They can put in their information and find out where their loved one is at.
Okay, fair enough. I want to talk about the costs. A lot of people looking at what they consider an eye-popping number to have built Alligator Alcatraz. 450 million was the whole number we heard at the beginning. I think up until now, what I've seen is upwards of 300 million. When you were first announcing the Baker Correctional second deportation depot, what you call that now, I believe you had mentioned it was going to be 6 million to retrofit that now defunct prison. There is an airport for possible deportations 15 minutes away. Why not start with those kind of places where infrastructure was already available? Why start in the Everglades and spend that kind of money? At this point, wherever it's coming from is taxpayer money on some level, but why not just start with the infrastructure that was already in place in this state?
Well, Glenna, I appreciate you asking very clarifying questions. I wish others would do that. So first of all, thank you for that. Second, the number, let me unpack the numbers here for just a second. We are under a contract. Well, let me rephrase. We are still working through the contract mechanism. It's all been verbal to this point with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. We roughly came up with a number in the very beginning of about 450 million to house 5,000 individuals for a 12-month term. So that's where that number comes from. And I'm glad that you point out that and giving me the opportunity to clarify it. To the point of the $250 million right now, again, taxpayers don't know this, but the way that systems work is we actually set up not to exceed amounts in purchase orders with our vendors. We got roughly 10, 15 vendors that are out there helping us get this work done. So they have not to exceed amounts that are there for not to exceed about $250 million, give or take. So those are where those numbers are rooted at. Now, to the heart of your question, why? Why the Everglades? I was doing some research for your show this morning, Glenda, and I said, I wonder what the national buy-in, if you will, to immigration is. And I looked it up, and on Gallup, the Gallup poll says that 79% of Americans and adult Americans agree with the direction of immigration. Now, that's an independent poll. Believe it or not, you can go ahead and go to a website and Google that information. But 79% as of July 2025. The one thing that people don't necessarily want is it in their backyard. So when you start looking for places to put these things, we found the Everglades. We've been in conversations with Miami-Dade County about potentially purchasing this environmentally sensitive, this environmental lands and the Everglades, if you will, for about 2 years now. I've been talking with Jimmy Morales about it, who is one of the Miami-Dade County CFOs. I have been working with him, talking with him, Rodney Barreto, and some others to buy this environmental land as a part of the governor's overarching environmental strategy in the Everglades. And you've heard the governor talk about this in the past. So it was an opportunity that we've already been in negotiation, or I shouldn't say negotiation, we've been in conversations. And we knew the facility was there. We knew it was surrounded by 39 square miles of Everglades. It was in nobody's backyard. So I know that's a very long answer to what you asked. But again, I think context is always good for the viewer. And that's why we went to the Everglades. It's got an airport. You've heard the governor talk about that. We can walk people about 2,000 feet and put them on a plane and go out there. Some people may say, well, it's environmental. What about the Everglades? Well, there were 100, the highest amount of planes that would land on that runway in a given day was 155. That's documented.
Yeah, we actually, and we've been reporting all about that since it opened July 1st as well. But did you get any pushback then for a place like Baker Correctional, which actually was a prison? I'm not really familiar with that territory, and I don't know if people live close by, but did you get any pushback there, or what other facilities and locations you're looking at right now?
Yeah, so in Baker County, again, it's in the middle of Osceola National Forest. So it is not really close to anybody. It's about 15 minutes away from the Columbia Lake City Airport. But again, it is in the Osceola National Forest. It's actually in the Osceola National Forest proper. So again, it's not near anybody. In Baker County, Columbia County, we actually had some people say, thank God it's coming because it's going to help our economy. Because if you may recall, Glenna, those are two fiscally constrained counties. They struggle to actually have revenue come in. So they actually were excited about them coming there to have a shot in the arm into their local economy for restaurants and hotels and things like that. So again, we did not get a whole lot of pushback in Baker County or Columbia County there. And they actually welcomed it with open arms.
You know, one of the things, as we report on all of this, a very controversial topic in so many ways in our very politically charged times, we are very mindful of doing things firsthand and documenting and confirming everything. And I will say we've had a very hard time trying to document firsthand a lot of allegations of what goes on inside these facilities, allegations of mistreatment. And I know at one point in one of the press conferences that you gave, you got what I consider to be uncharacteristically emotional and angry at what you considered the misinformation coming out. How do you, as the point person for all of this, help people really buy into a first-hand confidence that things are going properly?
Glenna, I had a sergeant that I worked for at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. His name was Don Toomey. He used to always say, the best predictor of future performance is past performance. And I will say this, the Florida Division of Emergency Management meets the needs of every single Floridian, regardless of race, sex, creed, religion, you name it, in disasters. And we perform at a high level. We have never, ever been called into question on our integrity as we deliver for the state of Florida and the Floridians and tourists and visitors that live here. But in this situation, because of your point, and I thank you again, Glenna, this is why I like coming on your show, is you correctly say this is just supercharged political. I would say to your viewers, the Florida Division of Emergency Management cares for people at their worst times. If you think for a minute that the Florida Division of Emergency Management, underneath my leadership, underneath the governor's leadership, is not going to provide care, not going to provide meals, not going to provide a place to stay that is suitable in living, then you don't know us. We can go back and get images of individuals in cages from previous administrations where they were sleeping on the floor underneath a blanket, and that is it. No mattress, no bunk, no nothing. In every single one of these facilities, it meets the jail detention standards, whether that's a national model or a local state model. They have a bed to sleep on. They have a blanket. They have a pillow. They have phones in their cells. They have the ability to do everything that they need to do. So again, let the best predictor of what we do be what we do. And that is you don't hear mistreatment, you don't hear things and disasters, and that's what we do. And that's why I got passionate about it. That's why you hear that passion in my voice now is, and another thing, I'll just say this is personal for me. A lot of people don't know, but my sister-in-law and my nieces are here on a K-1 visa. They're doing it the right way. They have been coming into this country for over 4 years. They just got here last fall. So it again is personal for me. Do it the right way. America is a fantastic place to be. And I really, really want people to come to this country and thrive in this country and be in this country. But there is a right way to do it. So Glenna, thanks for letting me go off on that for just a second.
And thank you for spending a little bit of time on what I know is a very, very busy time for you and your department. Kevin Guthrie, really appreciate you.
Thank you, Glenna.